Carfields, pioneers for over 50 years, supporting life and prosperity on the land for all generations. Carfields, your trusted partner on the land.
Dan Boulton on the line, I can see him. That's working, that's a good start. The CEO of Fern Farms. The segment is brought to us by Carfields, your partner in livestock performance. Dan, g'day mate, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time. I do really appreciate having you. How are you?
Good, Andy. Great to be on the show.
Good, mate. Good to have you. Fantastic to have you. And where are you today?
I am up in Central Otago today.
Right, good place to be. Very good place to be. Rightio, Fern Farms back in profit. That hasn't been easy, but a nice turnaround. What do you put it? Well, I mean, we're going to put it down to good prices overseas, right? Good prices, but more than that.
Yeah, a little bit more than that, but clearly, it is celebrate the phenomenal market returns and the demand that we have for our products across the globe, and not just around particular markets, but all our markets are very strong. So we've been enjoying that, as have our farmers. You see that in our revenue, up $400 million alone last year, and actually on less volume that we processed. I guess what's interesting though, Andy, is where livestock numbers are, pretty much all of that increase in revenue went through to farmers at farm gate, which is great. They deserve those returns. So actually our year-on-year improvement actually came down from the discipline and focus that our team put on across the organisation around efficiencies, cost out across the business, and just a real call out to the Fern Farms team right across the organisation and the work they've been doing. So really proud of the outcome. We've got more to do, but I can't complain about a $70 million year-on-year improvement.
Absolutely. No one's going to complain about that. And farmers, sheep and beef farmers are unusually happy at the moment. I haven't even heard too many of them moan lately. It must be quite nice when you go to your supplier meetings.
Yeah, no, it's right through the last 18 months actually. We forecasted protein demand markets were going to be favourable. We could see global production shrinking, and that's played out. And sure enough, we've seen the market prices lift, and actually we see that structurally being in good shape for the years to come. And I think that's a vote of confidence. When you're making decisions on farm, sure, we've got volatility across the globe, and we're seeing that right now. But fundamentally, consumers want what we've got. They love the attributes that go around our red meat products, and we see really strong demand for the years ahead.
Yeah, well, talking about the Middle East, you've pulled out of that market. Not bad timing.
No, we haven't pulled out. So we are still producing frozen product.
Oh, right. Just the fresh. Sorry, my mistake. Yep.
Yeah. So chilled is we had 140 containers on the water when the conflict broke out. So that's taken a lot of juggling to get those containers into market. They've found their way there through different ports and different routes. With phenomenal support from our logistics partners and our customers. We've resumed frozen production. It's going through different channels up there, so it's important we continue to service that market. It is about 6 to 8% of our land business and about 3 to 4% of our beef. But a real high value market that our farmers want to stay in. So we're trying to support our customers, and we're also looking at opportunities for restarting chilled when the time's right.
So the disruption obviously is significant. Is it something that you're going to be? I mean, have you got extra markets, or you can reroute, or just going to keep supplying, keep going?
Yeah, so we're finding different ports up there, whether it's around the east coast of that region, or whether it's actually going all the way up through the Mediterranean and back down into the Suez Canal. That's with our frozen, so working with our shipping partners there. But what's most important as an exporter here in New Zealand, you've got to have alternative markets, and I think our market diversification is so critical because the world is volatile, and when you're exporting from the bottom of the world, when one market closes or one route closes, you've got to keep product moving. So we've managed to move that displaced product into other markets, and actually no impact on the value of that product, which just shows the strength of the other markets as well. So leveraging our other markets, and this is just the way we operate, needing to be agile and responsive. A few years ago it was the Panama Canal that had restrictions due to droughts and not enough water. Then it was the Red Sea. Now we've got the Strait of Hormuz. So all critical things we need to be managing.
Yeah, we certainly are at the end of the supply chain, or the beginning of the supply chain, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. But what about the extra cost then of rerouting product? Is that significant?
Yeah, I mean, there is a significant cost there. It's probably not about the rerouting per se, but obviously the wider impact around the conflict up there, which is well publicised, is around the fuel costs. And we're seeing significant surcharges coming on our shipping lanes. So where we can, we are passing those on to our customers. But it's not just into the Middle East; it's globally across all shipping routes. And what's happening is vessels are getting off schedule, containers are turning up in the wrong place, and that just makes the whole shipping globally really ineffective. So we're seeing significant costs coming through us in that space, and we're seeing it obviously play out in the domestic scene here around the global fuel shortages as well. So I think I may have made a comment last week, just this is a minimum figure for Civil Fern Farms. The next 6 months, we see about $35 million of increased cost coming into the Civil Fern Farm supply chain across, whether that's shipping or whether that's fuel, and whether that's packaging costs as well, because sometimes it's not just fuel, it's all the byproducts that come out of a refinery, and plastics, which is really important to keep our product safe from a food safety perspective, is critical. And I think the big watch out that we need to be thinking about is resin and packaging in the next 6 months as well.
Yeah, it is. It's all those little things that all add up, right? One of the things that is interesting, I'm just interested in your thoughts on this. Like as I was saying just before we started, I went and filled my truck up this morning. Price had actually come back. I think I paid at the pump price, I think was $3.79. Once you get a major shock like this, after a month or 2 months, you start to get a little bit of equilibrium. You find a new kind of level, don't you? Are we starting to see that a little bit, do you think?
Yeah, I think with the fuel, there's two sort of things to manage. One is the cost perspective, and I think there's sensitivity around demand on fuel, just depending on where price points are. And I think there will be a new normalisation of that. Clearly, there's parts of the sector that are heavily dependent on that cost. But I think the more concerning thing is availability. So we can manage the cost element somewhat, but if supply shortages come, then we've got significant supply chain challenges. So Civil Fern Farms, we are looking at modelling around what would that mean for our sector, for our industry, for our business, and also working with government around, if the government went into different levels. So I think the cost is one part of it, and that clearly hurts New Zealand and New Zealand producers, but I think availability is the big one that we need to be really looking closely at.
Dan, coming back to New Zealand, talking about supply, what's it looking like? We looked at those numbers. The livestock numbers in New Zealand, sheep are going down again. Beef is sort of there and thereabouts. How's that impacting on the business?
Yeah. So, we've seen probably maybe a 15% reduction in total livestock numbers over the last decade, and that's been a real challenge. And we saw quite an acute step change last year with about 7 or 8%, that was about 7% reduction across beef and lamb. And that drove the procurement tension I talked about earlier. Part of that's good news for beef. It's about rebuilding, and we're seeing significant rebuilding, particularly in the dairy space, but also in beef in terms of the outlook. So for us, it's just a point in time of the cycle when I see, the outlook on livestock numbers, particularly in beef, starting to lift in the coming years. And for lamb, that was another step down. But the outlook for this year is that we're actually in a plateau or maybe a slight increase. And I think, the signals we're getting from the market around future land prices, coupled with wool prices, and then some of the improvements in land use regulation changes, I think there's a real positive outlook on lamb. And I think my challenge to my team is how do we get lamb back into a growth sector again. It's a phenomenal product with phenomenal demand. So I think we're at the bottom, and I think getting back into growth, playing our role in doubling exports is going to be important. And sheep, beef and venison have got a big role to play moving forward.
Well, farmers follow price signals generally, right? If there's money there, farmers will increase supply or production if there's worth it. And you're right. I think coupling the wool price with sheep meat certainly will support that. Just quickly before we go, obviously innovation is a big part of what we do in New Zealand, and no different to you guys. Is there anything particular that Silver Fern Farms is doing, innovative products, anything we should be keeping a lookout for?
Yeah, I mean, innovation, R&D is absolutely critical to make sure we're maximising the most value from our markets. And so I think, we're doing some pretty exciting stuff. And one of them is actually about how do we promote our total farming system, right? So instead of just selling a product with a special attribute on it, actually what's resonating with those customers that our farmers deserve to be in is actually all of the proof points around our total farming system. Now, our farmers have been telling us, how do we really showcase our farmers in the New Zealand pastoral-based grass-fed system? And so we're building a lot of sort of frameworks around that, around a higher New Zealand Farm Assurance Plus standard. We're doing work around how do we unlock value around nature, around emissions reductions. All of those things are exactly what our high-value customers are doing. So it's more of a systems approach to innovation, and it really is about just championing our farmers to make sure they stay in those best-paying markets. And we're getting some really, really good progress there, and we're making some good traction with some of the phenomenal customers globally. So I think we're in a real sweet spot, and I think it's been supported by the drive to sustainability within the food supply chain, but also at the same time, protein is going to be short going forward. So customers are choosing who they want to partner with for the long term. And the great news is Silver Fern Farms, we're right at the top of their list of who they want to work with.
And the good news for us is we produce a lot of protein, and we do it very well and very efficiently. There's still, like the Europeans, they still can't figure it out, can they? They, as much as they've been down here, we must do their heads in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Europe and the UK have just turned into rock star markets for us in the last 12 months. So almost doubled our volume and revenue, which is absolutely great. And it's not great for farmers up there. They've really been struggling with production shrinking, but it's this has been a real tailwind for us here in New Zealand.
I know, and it's funny, and I don't expect you to comment on this, but you see the YouTube videos of farming up there, and you look at their systems, and I just scratch my heads, and they've been so used to subsidies, and I know they're under pressure environmentally and all sorts of things, but really sometimes it just looks like something out of the 19th century. It really does. Dan, mate, really appreciate. I know, don't comment, you'll get in trouble. I can say it, you can't. Thanks for your time. Great to have you on the show. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Have a great afternoon.
Whatever your farm needs, machinery, seed, livestock or finance, Carfields has the solution and the expertise to back them up. Find out more at carfields.co.nz.